He might be right there. Yeah, he'll probably be right there.
I framed you up. It was like a small sliver.
Small couch
you
sliver?
might catch him. I don't
It'll
know.
be fun. It'll be fun for the people at home. Today's date is 8/22?
22. Look, I have a calendar.
Was it? Oh, nice. Wame.
Curriculum. Did you spell curriculum correctly?
CIRICULUM?
CIR?
Curriculum? You? Curriculum?
Curriculum is what you wrote.
Curriculum? I mean,
Curriculum.
truthfully,
We're gonna call it
writing words, not good at spelling. Typing words, I'm like, oh yeah, I see that that's wrong. But writing them, like my chicken scratch handwriting, nah.
Ooh, maybe you should fix your handwriting.
All right.
Who's excited? I'm excited.
This girl, she's in a real back to school mode. What have you been doing? Just to catch people up real quick.
Let me give you some background. When I was little, I used to...
Can we speed the background up though?
No.
Like, not to do too much.
No.
I want the
When
background.
I was little, I used to love playing teacher. Did anyone else love playing teacher? Did you ever play teacher? Okay. I would like make up students. I would make up like what I was teaching. I would like write lesson plans and things like that. That has never really left me. I love teaching.
Yeah.
I love curriculum. I love coming up with ways to share information, organize information. And so recently, after all of the like launch stuff has been crazy, you guys know I find some weird, like not like real weird,
Well,
but like
I think everyone finds weird rabbit holes down YouTube.
Plexico, please stop itching.
Hey man.
I get on weird YouTube tears where I'm just like consuming YouTube videos as entertainment, but like on different topics. So my recent one has been like van life. Like we're never gonna convert a Sprinter van, but I am in it.
Yeah.
I picture myself in that life. It's never gonna happen. But recently, thanks to the recommendation engine of YouTube, I've been in, this is also because a lot of teachers follow me on Instagram. Like you have a nice contingent of teachers. And I've been into these teacher vlogs where they're like
Teacher vlogs, yeah.
where they're like getting their classroom ready. And obviously it's because it's back to school season, so like more of those videos are popping up. But I found a couple and I felt really inspired because when you find teachers who are passionate about teaching, it gets you excited. So I view Wandering Aimfully and our community as like, we're teachers, right?
Yeah.
And so we want to come up with helpful ways to guide them and help them grow, like all of our members, and help them learn new skills. So like in a lot of ways, we are teachers. And so we have talked about, and you guys may have seen on the customer journey video and things like that, that we wanted to really make sure that we have a fleshed out.
I believe this was an Oatmeal comic that he clearly explained this.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Fleshed out
means
is like
you,
bones and
figured
you're
it
like,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, fleshed out means
is
you
like,
flushed down the toilet.
Okay, fleshed out.
Yeah. Could be wrong. Could have just been
No, I
completely
think that's
wrong on
right.
that. Yeah.
I think of, anyway. So
Long story short,
we talked about how we wanted to have a curriculum for members, maybe do some like monthly themes and kind of give people some clarity and direction for small chunks of time around the different resources. And so because I'm on this back to school tear, my idea for September was back to basics with business. And so it's this idea of, listen, you probably set goals at the beginning of January for how you thought this year was gonna go. It never goes according to plan.
Yeah.
So now that it's summer and you've taken time to relax, like it's time to like really make the most of these next 4 months for the rest of the year. And
which is truthfully like 3 months.
So how can we help people with just the basic business stuff? This is also coming from a lot of the feedback that we get from people sometimes who need our help, is like even the most basic business things they aren't doing. So like keeping track of their revenue.
Yeah,
and
one of the things we talked about in the car when you were bringing this up was it's very difficult as an online business owner. No one really teaches you how to like understand all of the things that go into the foundation of your business, like revenue, expenses, and all that stuff. Like you get the concepts of them, but actually putting them into practice, it's difficult because there's like 100 different softwares for it. Your CPA, if you work with a CPA or bookkeeper, they speak in like a whole different language, and they're like, oh, here's your general ledger. And like, what the hell is a general ledger? Like, why does it say on here I've made $3 million? Like, I don't have $3 million. It's like, oh, well, it's just all of your, like every single thing you've ever sold. And like, one thing I'm like, that's not helpful. Like that does not help me at all. I don't have money to pay my bills next week. What's going on?
Right. And so that's important. Just you and I for a long time, like we didn't really understand like cash flow, like being able to also predict your income a little bit, to have a system for looking into the future a little bit and saying, how much am I gonna make? So you can figure out your cash flow situation. Another thing is like margins and just understanding, okay, the more that I spend on making this thing, the more it cuts into my potential profit for that. Like different business basics and things like that. And not to mention, I think a thing that we see a lot also is people pour time and energy into the wrong revenue streams.
Oh, for sure. Well, and time and energy into the wrong things. So I think a big part of the back to the basics thing, and the fun part about this whole meeting right now specifically, is that we've only talked about, let's do this back to the basics thing. A little talk of like getting your revenue on track, doing this in September, that's it. So you guys are gonna kind of discover along with us, as we like to do in these unedited meetings, of what is this? What does this mean? Because the thing that jumps out to me immediately is just a time valuation. So like, I would really love to challenge anybody who wants to go through this, especially as a WAIM member. Like, one of the first things is to write a daily journal of your time. And if you can do it for 5 days, like 1 week, I bet it would be so powerful for people to see where are they spending their time, and does that time equate to business growth, and not growth in like that everyone's got to be growing all the time, in the like, hey, I'm a person, I'm trying to grow my business, I'm trying to make more revenue. Where's my time going? Like, what am I doing with my time?
I think that could be cool. Well, we'll get into that. Let's keep going at high level. So the way that we had loosely talked about this is providing just basically the monthly theme of Back to Business Basics, and then maybe doing some weekly content to our members, like weekly emails, as well as we can discuss it in this meeting of, do we do a short video and then we give them resources? In the past, we have done this thing where we like overblow everything. Right. And that's mainly because of me, and I'm excited about stuff like that.
She's an overblower, some would say. Is that dirty?
We're gonna let that just settle for you. We're not gonna comment on it. We're not gonna take it any further.
Definitely don't Urban Dictionary that, because I'm sure it's something.
Yeah, so we're just gonna move on.
This is what I bring to these meetings, and I hope it's helpful.
It's so helpful.
See how
it feels a lot like I am a teacher, and I'm just teaching like, you're like an 8th grader who just is like gonna make like dirty jokes and like totally distracted, and
that feels about right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of loosely what we mean by curriculum, is just something that we can, some loose kind of guidance that we can give our members in the form of, and probably we'll include it in Slack and stuff like that. What we also just recently discovered is, because of the kind of template that we've created in the member dashboard now, we can set this up as a roadmap.
Yes, so looking at this as like for the WAIM members watching this, you'll understand this completely. For those of you who aren't WAIM members, what are you doing with your life? Get on WAIM member.
Well, we've talked,
hold on.
Side note. Sorry. Okay. No,
keyword, what's your keyword?
Keyword is private.
Okay. One of the things, we'll get to that. But for WAIM members specifically, the way that I think we kind of brought this curriculum idea together was, we don't need to make a full course. We don't need to feel like a big thing you have to get into. What if it's just one page within the dashboard that has a video that's like 3 to 5 minutes long that introduces a principle or an idea or an exercise, and we write out how you do that, and then the next one is another one, whatever, and I'm looking at Caroline's thing, and she has like week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and maybe it's not even weeks. Like, maybe it's just, hey guys, here's the curriculum for September, and here's how you can follow a schedule. Like, we're not gonna drip this out. You could do it all in 1 week if you wanted, if you're just feeling really spunky. But for our members, it's to really have like the idea of this thing, a video to do it, and then what Caroline was just saying was these interactive roadmaps that we've created, which are really cool, that it takes a bigger topic and it gives you individual steps that we would want you to take to accomplish the goal, and you can check them off. And it's so rewarding, because then we can break it into chunks. So we could say, if we want to do it in weeks or phases, whatever we want to call it, here's phase 1. You can't do phase 2, 3, or 4 until you do phase 1.
Right.
And so you check all the little boxes, and you get your little dopamine responses, and then when the last one goes, bing, phase 2 opens up, and you're like, oh, I'm phase 2. Oh.
8th grader. What did I say?
But I think that's a really fun for everyone who's a WAIM member, because a lot of WAIM members watch these videos, for them to know like, oh, that's cool, I could see how these, and here's the other part, is that this will probably fit in the courses and workshops section of the library, we'll have a little card that identifies the Back to Basics workshop, and that just goes into that page. So you could go, I want to do the Back to Basics thing, let me save that to my dashboard, that little card, bing, and if you're really confused, you're just like, what are you talking about? There's a video on our join page on Wandering Aimfully, wanderingAimfully.com/join. I'll leave a link to it. If you want to watch the dashboard walkthrough, Caroline did an awesome walkthrough video of that, and you can see a lot of this stuff as we're talking about it in there in that video. So I just think it's a really cool like way to use everything we've built and continue using it moving forward.
So am I correct in thinking that you see this as 2 cards, a roadmap card and like a video workshop card, and they go hand in hand? Because to me the roadmap, me the roadmap gives you the ability to check through all the steps and get like the resource and whatever, but the video card is like the content.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the really cool thing that we discovered just kind of by happenstance is that we can create a card, and all the card does in the back end is just says like, hey, I'm a visual thing, where do you want me to link people?
I'm literally a visual link.
Yeah, that's all
a card is.
Yeah, and it's great because it's something that can be saved.
Yeah.
So it's just a really, like, we're trying to think of ways to make this dashboard that we've invested a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort into, make it more impactful, have people come back to it and continue to use it.
And make it, my biggest thing is dynamic. Like, I don't want it to feel static.
Right.
I want it to feel like, oh, I want to check back in all the time because I know they're constantly adding stuff. That reminds me, I need to add more faves. I'll do that today.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to make a little note for yourself? All right, so your keyword is privacy or private, and I know where that's going. So the thing that I brought up last night when we were talking about this idea and I was making dinner is, and we've talked about this before, so it's not my unique idea, I'm just saying I said it out loud, so that, husband point, is that we have this curriculum, we have this back to basics idea, and then what we can do is write a blog post about it, and that blog post can be on our public-facing Wandering Aimfully site, but we can have a section in there that's like, hey, if you want to get this in detail with a roadmap with all this stuff, that's available in our membership. Sign up and do it.
That is not what I was thinking.
Oh, well, you said private though.
Well, I know that, but the deal with the keyword is not that it's your interpretation of the other person's keyword.
Everything's my interpretation. That's the entire ecosystem of life is just revolving around
you.
Yeah.
God, I've been living wrong. I have been living wrong.
Everyone has.
I'm just here for you.
Everyone has been
doing
living
it wrong. Okay, so what I meant by private, that's a good reminder though, because I do think we should do that. My private.
Oh. You waltzed right into that one, didn't you? Caroline, you turned 30 and you just start talking about your privates and YouTube videos.
I waltz into my privates all the time. Okay, I'm sweating.
Yeah.
My keyword, private, different keyword, was more so about, because we're talking to the camera right now as though we're talking to members and non-members, but one thing that we had talked about was potentially keeping unedited meetings as members only content. And the reason I say that is because 1, members only are usually the people that watch them anyway. But 2, I think it becomes a value add for the community because you're getting the in-depth.
So is this the last unedited meeting that we're gonna put on our YouTube channel?
That's what I'm trying to say.
Whoa, interesting. Well, I definitely know that we've had a bunch of comments from people who watch these that are like, please keep doing these are a lot of fun. I believe the majority of those have been WAIM members. So, which is cool. Like, I'm so happy to hear that. So yeah, it's just a matter of how do we organize that? Anyway, that's a conversation for a different time.
And it's not like I want to like hold our content hostage. It's that I feel like as a paying member, you should be able to get the more in-depth stuff. Like the more, because we give so much free value away, especially if we're going to do this in a blog post anyway. But it's like, hey, if you want to see the full meeting on how we fleshed all of this out.
Or fleshed it out.
I don't know. Flush it away. Then you can sign up, and that's a benefit that our members get is these unedited meetings. And I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, well, what could be interesting is, because also we could embed the meeting in that post on the front-facing site, and that could be a restricted part of the post. It's like, oh, you can't see this because it's only for members only. We had this.
But you said this was our last public one.
Right.
But maybe it's not. Maybe it's private. Maybe you WAIMers right now are watching this and you're like, no, it is private. Keyword private. Hashtag keyword private.
Everything private. Okay. That was me just checking the recording because we haven't done this in like a month.
Okay, so
let's get into it.
Order of operations is I think we should come up with like we could just brainstorm first. I have a little brainstorm box here. Oh. All of the ideas of like things that we think are basics that we want to teach. Then we can like pick our favorites, organize them into themes or weeks.
Yep.
Like for instance, a lot of the revenue streams and just money tracking stuff, I feel like that's intensive. So maybe that's for week 1, like know your numbers. But then I love your time stuff, and maybe that's all about like productivity and process. You know what I mean? So anyway, do you want to brainstorm first?
Sure.
Okay, so revenue, numbers, and expenses.
So is that basically our ETAC exercise?
Yes, but our ETAC exercise is very much tailored toward expenses.
But businesses have expenses.
No. I know. What I'm thinking of is, remember when I used to do my sales dashboard for every product that I had? So I knew exactly by breakdown, oh, better branding course is only making me $500 a month. Better lettering is making me $2,500 a month. I need to pour more.
Yeah. I just wonder if we're talking about the basics and maybe they're just 2 separate weeks. Like, and again, this blends everything that we want Wandering Aimfully to stand for, which is your life and your business, not just your business. So it's like, I see it as go through and do your ETAC, by the way, is expense tracking and categorization, is what that stands for, ETAC. The idea there is to look at all of your expenses and have a really firm understanding of what your average expenses are every month for all the categories of things. So like, how much money do you spend on Amazon? How much you spend on groceries? How much on entertainment? How much on car stuff? How much on whatever? And business is also in there, but for those of us who own our own businesses, there can be some intermingling and it can get a little messy. So doing this one exercise builds a habit for you then going forward. If you do this like once a week is really what we recommend, but if you do it once every 2 weeks or once a month, you can look at your expenses and get a good idea of them.
But the thing that's hard is in that exercise, we lump all of our business expenses together, but I feel like somebody who...
Yeah, that's okay.
I would want them to break it out.
Sure, for sure. I mean, I think we just, as we go through with this and we figure out what we want people to do, we could basically say like, hey, if you have more than one business, well, during the ETAC, part of ETAC week of this or whatever, you categorize, all right, here are my life expenses, here is, I have this one business or this one product, I have this one business or this one product, and here are the expenses it takes to run those things.
Exactly.
And then maybe in week 2 is like, okay, you did expenses, now let's do revenue. And I mean, you could do them all at once, but it could be a bit overwhelming. So again, we're kind of in the brainstorming section of this, so don't mind if we just are wandering a bit here through these ideas.
So I'm gonna say one of our ideas is like expenses.
But I do think it's helpful to, again, like we're really talking about like the foundation, the basics, understanding. I just strongly believe, because we are the people who went through this ourselves, and that's why we want to teach this, is that we felt like we had a good grip on our expenses and our money and all these things, but then you actually dig into it and you get some surprises. You start to realize like the $20 here and there, the $5 here and there, like these things all add up, and all of a sudden you're now like, what did I spend $200 on last month? And I could actually take that money, and what if I spent that money on Facebook ads and got some people into my free email course for my thing or whatever, and you start to realize like, oh, I need to invest the money instead of just like wasting it on things because I'm not paying attention. So it just becomes really powerful, and this is the exercise that I've done with a couple people one-on-one in the community, where all we've done is looked at their expenses, and they've come out of it going, I just found $500 a month that I can save. And they're like, you just found $500 a month. So if we just look at that annually, you just found $6,000 a year. We just made you $6,000 a year just by addressing your expenses and like ruthlessly looking at them and understanding what you're spending your money on.
I also just really feel strongly that we need a basic lesson on margin and profit, because that's another big thing that I don't think people connect sometimes, is like, it's more obvious. Sorry, let me just get this thought out. So it's more obvious in like a product-based business where you go, for example, my prints, where they used to cost me like $4 to get printed, and I would sell them for $15, and so then your margin is what, $11. But then you start to realize, okay, I'm actually spending another $2 on shipping. If I can get that down to $1, then my profit goes up by $1. So as much as you can get your expenses down, your profit will increase by that exact amount if you're not reinvesting or whatever. And I think sometimes in online business, it's hard to see that.
For sure.
And so you start to go, oh, you know what? Even in like an online business format, I go, oh, you know, I actually probably don't need Go Squared. I mean, we love Go Squared, but this is just an example. I probably don't need Go Squared every month for every one of these websites. I can cut that cost down by $50. Now my profit of my business just went up by $50 because I cut down my expenses, you know? And so it's like just really getting people to see that connection.
Yeah, and I think one really helpful exercise for people would also be to put a value on their time. And so you look at like, okay, I have a $100 online course. And my costs to sell that online course every month are, I've got a course platform, let's say it's like Teachery, shameless plug, so that's $50. I pay, let's say Gumroad, so that's, call it $10 a month. So whatever it is, maybe your expenses end up being $150 per month to like run your online course with nothing else going on. You're not paying for anything else, just running it. And you look at that and you're like, okay, cool, so if I sell 2, I'm profitable. But you don't take into account your time. And maybe your time is that you're answering a couple of emails here and there, you're posting some social media content about the course, you're writing a couple articles. Well, now you've spent maybe 10, 20 hours working on it. Even if your time is worth $20 an hour, you've now spent, let's say, $400 in hourly time. So plus your thing, like, you now need to sell 6 courses to be profitable just based on the time that you've spent. And so I think that's actually a helpful exercise for a lot of people who are getting started or people who are early in, especially like an online product-based business, is to value their time.
Yeah, and really, because
that actually leads into then the time validation thing, because then you can see like, this takes away and it's actually like pulling money away.
Yeah, and I've gotten in the weeds with that before where I'm like, oh, but then like, you know, you're always going to be spending time, so should you really count that? And it's like, it's not about that. It's really about just, and it's not about hemming and hawing over what that number is. It's about just placing a number on it so that you can include it in your calculations for input versus output. Yeah. So that's another exercise that I think we do in Make Money Making, where you're evaluating revenue streams, or maybe we do it in Future Finding, but literally listing out your revenue streams for your products or your businesses and saying, okay, here is the input for this. This is how much time I put into it. This is how much it costs me to put into it. And here's what I get out of it. Here's how much money I get out of it. And then we always like to include also some type of value-based output. So like, do I get like really high enjoyment out of it? Do I not? Like really factoring that in, which I think is where, again, Wandering Aimfully is a little different than other business communities, because it's like, no, it's not just about the numbers here. It's like, we recognize the numbers need to be right in order to have you be profitable and sustainable, but we also need to factor in this X factor, which is, do you like it? Does it make you feel good? So an input-output exercise is good as well. And then the time valuation allows you to then just kind of factor in your time with the input. You know what I mean? Yep.
So that's already 7 items that we can take people through.
But they sort of like...
Oh, no, I'm not saying that like they're disparate. I'm just saying like it's already a lot. Yeah. Like it's already a good amount of things. I'm wondering if there's anything else that really stands out, or if that's enough.
If that's enough.
You know, if that's enough just to say like, one other thing that I might throw on here, and it's funny because I was just emailing with someone about this the other day, is they were like, hey, you know, I work a full-time job, but I had this side business that I've been trying to work on, and I can just like never find time to work on it. And I think that tends to happen because as someone who works a full-time job and you have a side business that you're trying to start, well, guess what? The side business is always the last thing. It's always the thing that gets pushed. It's always the thing that like, it can always be moved around because it's just not doing anything for you. And it will always be that until you prioritize it. And so I'm wondering if there's something in here where we could help people build just a small schedule for themselves to go, if there's a side project or a side hustle, can you give it 5 hours this week, 1 hour a day, or 5 focused hours on one day of the week or on the weekend or something, and actually get the homepage finally designed, get the buttons all linking to something you want, get the copy for your about page written. And maybe in this month, part of this exercise is like every week, spend a certain amount of hours, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on your side project, on your main project, on this course that you haven't updated in forever, like whatever it is, and know that in 1 month, I'm now going to probably put in 20 hours, let's say, or 10 to 20 hours. That's more than I put in this entire year because I've never prioritized it.
Yeah.
And it's just for me, like the bringing it all back to the basics is like, I think so many people build the thing and then they don't have like the website for it. They don't have the sales page for it. It's not all written. It's not all figured out. And it's because they ran out of time. They ran out of energy.
The reason that I'm like hesitant, I think that's a great idea. First of all, I'm just thinking.
I see how you softened the blow there.
I didn't. I'm just thinking, wouldn't that be great to do, let's say for like October? Because to me, that's about like that's more about either updating a dormant thing or something that has been forgotten needs to be breathed new life into it. And also I think what this serves for is like, let's say you do all this and then week 4, you get clarity on what should I be working on.
Yeah.
Because maybe you in this input output and like doing all this, I'm just putting myself in the Made Vibrant shoes of like, let's say I go through this whole thing and by the end of it, I realize, oh, better lettering course is the thing that I haven't touched in 2 years, but that still makes me like some consistent income. And if I just, put
Updated
a little,
it, yeah.
and so then you go into October and you go, now I know from all of this,
Yeah, that makes sense.
what I need to focus on.
Cool.
So then maybe October becomes like, some fun thing about like breathing new life into something, or like the renaissance of.
Well, what could be cool for that too is thinking down the road just a little bit, and that's thinking down the road is a pun intended on where this is going to go. So get ready for that because my brain already put that together for you. Is we had talked about doing Tesla Tuesday videos where we would try and beef up the better branding course that you have, that we still have as its own thing that people can buy. It is included in the Wandering Aimfully membership, but it's its own thing, and it's currently making somewhere between $100 and $500 a month, probably $300 on average. Can we get that up to $1,000 a month to have that cover our car payment, our Tesla payment? And our idea was to like talk about the Tesla and then talk about this thing and do that. That could be a fun thing for people to like do along with us in October, and that becomes kind of the fun way to use that as like the thing to do. And I like that because then it's not just us going, hey, here's the thing, and like, good luck doing this on your own. It's like, no, we're gonna do this too. Yeah, like Better Branding course has things that need to be updated. It has some things that have been not neglected, but just pushed to the side because we have much more important stuff. So that could be really a nice way to tie it all together. How'd I do?
You did a great job.
Yes, 8th grader coming through. Did I graduate?
Nope. And you took my feedback really well, my constructive feedback.
Yeah, no, it's good.
And that brings me to my next thing I wanted to bring up, which was, those of you who did watch the customer journey Unedited Meeting will remember keyword Katniss.
Yeah.
Do you remember keyword Katniss?
Oh, I love Katniss.
Who's Katniss?
Katniss is our ideal customer.
No.
Oh, I forgot. I tried.
You did a great job. Katniss was the person that we said this guinea pig idea.
Oh, Katniss.
So my question for you is, as an additional layer of this that could be fun, which is sort of like a hot seat thing, is ask the community if anyone wants to volunteer as tribute, Katniss reference, to be the guinea pig for this. And so that would allow us to basically, as we roll out the content, somebody is volunteering to say, I am committing to going through all of this and being able to share it with.
Because we're not going to necessarily be the guinea pig like we will in October for this month.
Right.
Yeah.
Although I think we could totally still get a person.
Yeah. No, I like it. I'm a little nervous on the timing of it just because we're already like 1 week away from September.
Yeah, but all somebody has to do is just say yes.
Yes. Yeah, okay, let's go a little bit further down.
Like, it's literally...
Whoa, pump. The old brakes, Peter Malark.
Gail? Is that the other one?
Gail, yeah, that's the...
What a silly name.
That's the Hemsworth. And then there's the third.
The Hemsworth.
Then there's the third Hemsworth. That was
Who would be handsome by any standards, but then you're in the Hemsworth family, so like...
Compared to the other two, sorry, bro.
That's what I'm saying.
What criteria does Katniss need to have to be this guinea pig?
I think that's what we need to talk about. I think it's really just about them sharing their homework publicly. Which I know could get a little touchy with the money stuff.
They don't have to have any revenue or profit right now? I think they do.
No, they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I wrote at the top here that the Back to Business Basics curriculum should be targeted at existing business owners, but for anyone who's like thinking about starting a business, they could also benefit from it by going, oh, I know that I need to do all this before I set up my business, but it's really targeted at these people. Okay. And then same for October, maybe someone who's starting their business doesn't have a product, but they can literally go through the same steps to be like, okay, let me just create the thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like it.
And I figure in the future we could do something like new product November or whatever, and it's like, hey, here's a new idea. And then we start to have this backlog of like little 30-day curriculums where people, if you're in the spot, like maybe somebody next month isn't in a space with their lives where they can really devote the time to like something that's on the back burner, but maybe in March of next year they will be. So all they have to do is go back to Project Front. I called it Project Front Burner.
Front burner.
But all they have to do is go through that.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, for us, we've talked about this quite a bit, is using the idea of 30 days as like a bucket, to like explore bigger topics, to take on challenges ourselves, to do different things. And I think some of them will be fun to, like a new November would be a fun one to do. You know, that's maybe the moniker that we use, but we don't keep it through there so it doesn't date it or whatever. But it's just the idea of like 30 days to a new product, and here's the way that you do that. And so we kind of have these little challenges that we're putting in there that people could go in and they can cherry pick whichever one they want whenever they want based on their own life schedule. It's just super cool. So it's kind of fun how we're weaving the 30-day challenge idea back in, because we talked about that years ago, having that be like its own business. Like you even created a brand and a website for it, which is going to be really cool. Okay, so what are the next steps here? So
I think based on our ideas, we should break it down into the 4 like themes. And say like what exercises are included, and then the next step is to then say, okay, how does that look content wise? Is it just like a little blog post? Is it like a little recorded video that's not super in-depth like feature finding?
Right.
So let's take all of these here, and the way that I kind of see it is maybe like,
again, I'm like the 8th grader, so I'm looking to you for, you know, setting this curriculum up for me to be successful, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just focusing on my hormones.
I think, so week 1 would be like, do you think it's too much to ask somebody to do expenses and revenue? Because I think it's naturally they're going to do it at the same time. Because let's say if they're downloading all the data, we can be like, download your Stripe data, download.
I think you do them at the same time.
Okay. So that I think is like Know Your Numbers week, and that's expenses.
E-Tech.
Yeah, E-Tech.
Come on, man. Get on our acronyms.
Kills me.
What do you mean it kills you? It's
revenue.
Great. It's also attack. You want to attack your expenses.
Attack your expenses.
It's a great alliteration.
E-Tech.
Is that what it is? Alliteration? No.
Acronym. Okay, so that's week 1. Week number 2, I think, could be like the time valuation, the time tracking.
Okay.
Time and process, maybe.
Yeah, I remember doing a time tracking exercise a couple years ago, and it was really simple. Like I just would basically every hour check in with myself on what I was doing. I would write down what I was doing, and then I could look back on it and I could look and go, holy crap, I'm spending all this time. And I think the other thing we could throw in here, which would be really helpful, is to have people install rescue time.
Yeah.
Because it's free, you don't have to do anything. And that, along with your own journal.
Scary.
It's scary, but it's also really informative. And having a guinea pig for that would be really fun. To be able to have someone who'd be willing to turn that on, and because it sends you reports and it gives these nice little charts and graphs, which is really nice.
Okay, so that's kind of the second one. And then number 3, I think, would be like where you start to then look at these 2 things and maybe do the input versus output kind of thing. This is feeling a lot like maybe it's the nitty gritty. We need to look back through our workshops, but we definitely went through these steps in another.
That's one thing we've talked about quite a bit recently, is just blowing up all of our content within the Wayne membership and making it anew. Yeah. And the reason is because when you build something years ago, obviously you change, you have more experience, you have more things you've learned, you have more stuff, and it seems like such a daunting task to think about redoing everything, but I look at it actually as like a super positive thing, because we can improve all this stuff. And like we were talking about it the other day, my sponsorship course, every video in that course is like an hour long, and it's because I was just going on and on because I was so not confident in what I was teaching. Like I knew that the skills would work, but I just wasn't confident myself. I could teach that course now in 1 hour for the whole thing, and there's like 12 hours right now. Yeah,
and another thing that's really important to realize is obviously all of those products were meant to be individual things. So all of the lessons that lived, like take Better Branding course for example, all the lessons lived within the Better Branding course kind of mantra or whatever. But when you put it all together with everything that's available in Wandering Aimfully, it becomes really hard to find things and be like, where was that lesson? And so our idea is to basically break apart every course into its components. So let's say the Better Branding course has a component on setting up your website in Squarespace, because it does. When you break it up into components and then you reassemble it in different like playlists or tracks, but you have the individual components that are searchable, that becomes powerful, because then, members will be able to go to our library and search Squarespace, and they'll get one tiny video snippet that says setting up your website on Squarespace. They can click into it, watch that individual tutorial, or be like, hey, would you like to take the full course? And it's set up into like a playlist format with Better Branding course. So right now, everything lives at this sort of like top level organization, and we want to break it down into its most granular so that you can use them as little building blocks and kind of create your own thing. So down the road, but I'm thinking know your numbers time, evaluating, revenue streams, because that gives you an idea of what to work on. And then maybe week 4 is like, I also think margin and profit is here, where you can go
during the evaluation week.
Yeah, because I think also going like, okay, how can I make this thing more efficient?
Right.
So then maybe week 4 just becomes like setting a schedule for yourself, like then putting in the time to work on it, or coming up with a plan to figure one thing that you want to focus on for the remainder of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a big part, like, to me, the outcomes of the Back to the Basics 30-day challenge curriculum thing that we're building, one is getting a better understanding of what it takes to run your business and the like basics of that. So like your numbers, your time, like those things. And the second thing is to understand from your own personal like story, life, etc., what am I doing to maximize what I want for this business? So do I really need to be spending time on social media to make my business grow?
Right.
Like that to me is a really fundamental, foundational decision to make, because it may not. You may have a client services business, in which case, maybe your Instagram is like the worst possible place for you to do that, because all you do is share pictures of your cat, which is fine. Keep sharing pictures of your cat. Everyone loves your cat. But you need to realize like, my business isn't growing. I got to take a break from my cat photos for a bit.
Right.
And it's just
understanding opportunity costs. Like what if I spent every hour I was spending on social media, and instead I reached out to local business owners for, sent emails to 50 business owners a day for the next week instead.
Or just one business owner a day for the entire month, and you've now reached out to 30 people, and you look at the past couple months, you're like, how many people did you reach out to? Well, none, but I posted a shitload of cat videos. And it's those things that I think if someone could walk away with this afterwards, they would feel empowered to go, you know what? Yeah, I do need to spend half the time I was spending on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, like whatever it is, now that you've tracked the time and you can see it, I just think that's really powerful. And I think that's gonna be really fun if we do have someone who is the guinea pig for this, that they acknowledge, like, I do spend a lot of time and I'm not exactly sure where that time goes, and I could benefit from really evaluating that.
Yeah.
Do you agree with the outcomes, or do you have any other outcomes you thought about?
No, I love those outcomes.
Okay.
So then it becomes like, let's take this into action items of what do we need to create?
Yep. So I think we need to create little short introductory videos to each phase week topic, essentially. Sorry, Blacks. Heavy sigh. So we need to do that. We need to write out like kind of the longer description, which is basically the video, but broken down into...
Well, and the blog post. So like those are the,
right.
So write content for each section.
Yep. And then break each section down into the bite-sized items for the roadmap. And what's cool is I can already kind of see where we're gonna split our effort on this, which is like your strong suit is creating the actual curriculum. So it's the slides if we have them, it's the written content if we have it, it's the checklist items if we have it, whatever you want to say on video. My strong suit is actually making those things kind of come to life. So like all set up, record the video, edit the video, upload the video, get the video in the thing, create the post, or the template in the back end for this. I'll put the content in there that you've written, I'll set up the roadmap and get that all done. I'll create all the links to all the resources. And we have a nice division of labor there. Because where I think we get caught up in a lot of these things before, because we haven't been as combined as we are now with Wandering Aimfully, is like, well, what do you do? What do I do? You've done the same thing before. I've done the same thing. Like for me going forward, like I just feel like you're so good at curriculum. I'm good at just like taking all these puzzle pieces and putting them in places.
Okay, so videos for each topic, content for each section, and then also like any worksheets or downloads.
Yep. Yeah, I wonder if we're going to take the e-tac sheet to Airtable, or if we're just going to use this Google Sheets that we have.
Another thought that I had was like, what if, as a part of the September curriculum during Know Your Numbers week, I did the Airtable workshop that week for members.
Whoa, really?
Because it feels dumb to keep teaching the Google Sheets version when we know there's a more powerful option and we use Airtable.
My only hesitation is that feels like a lot for someone to undertake, and what we really want to do is have them feel empowered.
Yeah, but that's an optional.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not included in this. It's just like, hey, if you want to know how to do this with Google Sheets, check out the deck guide. And hey, if you want to know how to do this with Airtable, here's the video.
Yeah, I'm just picturing in the little kind of post in the back end is basically like under week 1, you kind of have, option 1, if you use Google Sheets, here's the walkthrough video of how to do that. Option 2, if you use Airtable, here's the thing how to do that. But I do think there's a whole separate workshop on Airtable where you go through like the tips and tricks through things like the linked columns.
That's what I'm talking about.
But I think that's separate. Like I think people
It is separate. That's what I'm telling you.
Hold on. I think there's 2 separate Airtable workshops though. There's like the Airtable workshop just specifically on how to use the e-tac sheet and how to set that up. Then there's the
just basics.
Here's the basics of Airtable, because most people just don't even know Airtable yet. They're excited about it. They've checked it out. They've looked at it.
Totally. But the way that I was originally thinking of teaching that was in 2 parts, like you just mentioned. So I would do the basics, but then I think the way that I learn is I need to see it in action. So like the expenses sheet is a perfect example, or the way that I kind of viewed it was like, I'll show you guys how I would set this up for expenses and how you can use all that. And then I'll show you how I set it up for our content calendar, let's say.
Right.
And even like productivity tracking, because I think the calendar view is really powerful.
Right. Yeah, I see it as like the basics of Airtable is obviously its own like post in the back end for members.
Yeah, but we could chop it up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And it has like 3 parts to it. And then maybe one of those parts is using the e-tac sheet, and then that can get reused in the other post. That's kind of how I see that could work. So I'm not exactly sure how that, did you see it also happening as a live workshop that people could watch it on
the thing that we had kind of talked about before is potentially the live workshop is available to everyone, but only members get the replay.
So maybe for this beginning thing, we don't do the live workshop part.
But then I would have to do it twice.
Well, yeah, I still think you'd have to do it twice if we want to teach it live, just because the recording kind of sucks, like the quality when you teach it live.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the working to live thing, right? Like we want to redo that because the recording isn't good. One other option we could think about is in October, we could do the live workshop during the launch of Airtable. And
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But you could have already done this. Again, we're brainstorming here. We're spitballing. Unedited Meeting. I do think it's helpful. I think it does fit in. I would make a note about using Airtable.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I don't mind doing it twice if the first go round I'm doing it for this and I have to plan it out anyway to record it. But then doing it live is easy because I've already planned it out.
Right.
So
it does just kind of double your work a little bit, but
it only doubles my work in the time that it takes to do the live thing because I've already done the work, you know. Okay, so our action items.
Okay, so let's also keep going here. We need to find a guinea pig.
I think also so let's write down the requirements, because I think someone with multiple revenue streams
is helpful.
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to think about how we offer up finding a guinea pig and we don't get like 50 people replying. Mm-hmm. Because we really only need one.
Well, I think we do 2. Because what if somebody, like, something happens and they can't commit to doing the homework or whatever?
Like they fall off a cliff?
What if a dog eats their homework?
Like they get sucked up by an alien? Like they enter a black hole? Like they watch Inception and then they just like can't function for like 3 weeks?
Inception?
And then they watch Interstellar and then they can't function for like 2 months.
I
And
knew
then
you were gonna say
they're just
Interstellar.
out.
And then they watch Memento and then they cry.
Or they eat something and it makes them really gassy and then they just can't do their work.
What do they eat?
Poblano peppers?
Does that make you gassy?
I have no idea.
Are we getting quieter?
2 people. Maybe we'll just put it in Slack and not email it because there's less people that'll see it in Slack. And
I
those
think
people
that's
are
dangerous.
Like, why?
Because then a bunch of people, like, it's hard to do it because I don't want people to feel left out if they don't get, like, chosen. I don't want it to be that thing.
I know, but I think we can just say like, hey guys, the idea here is that we need 2 people who can really be dedicated. This is just like, you have to be dedicated. You have to show up. You're going to get kicked out of WAIM if you don't do it. You're also going to have to lose a limb, so you decide one of your 4 limbs. And
What's happening?
Calm
Take a sip.
down.
Take a sip.
I don't need a sip. Perfect illustration of the 2 of us.
I'd rather stand here and be like,
I refuse
I
to
don't need a sip.
I refuse.
Sips are for weaklings.
I refuse to sip right now. I will just choke through it. Okay, I think we do it in Slack. I think we make it a very apparent that they need to follow through. Also say like, hey, no hard feelings if you send us a message and you can't do it. It's just gonna be first come, first serve, people who can raise their hand and say, I'm doing this. And we clearly write out what we need them to do.
Yeah. Do you
That, to
think
me, is
that
the way to do it.
anybody is going to be weirded out by showing their financials?
That's one of the things. It's just be
Yeah.
like, you have to be comfortable with showing your financials.
Yeah, and also everybody else needs to be not judgy and comment on financials.
I mean, we could, if they wanted, we could give them a name, like a code name in the, like when we share the exercises.
Right, so as an option,
We could change their
just
name.
anonymous.
Charlie Murphy. If someone wants to be named Charlie Murphy, that's who it is.
Charlie Murphy, is that a person?
Charlie Murphy!
Charlie Murphy!
From Dave Chappelle Show.
What is that a character?
Oh, bummer.
Oh no.
For the Dave Chappelle Show fans, you're super bummed. For everyone else, you're like, I don't know who that is.
What's the character?
Charlie Murphy!
What is the character?
Eddie Murphy's brother.
What does he do?
He's always following around Rick James and
Saying what?
just Rick James is always just yelling Charlie Murphy.
I just also am very nervous about naming a character after the Chappelle Show because I know that some of that stuff's really, funny but offensive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come up with a name.
Okay.
Benedict Cumberbatch just comes to mind. No one has that name.
Benedict.
All right, let's wrap this sucker up. Where are we?
Benedict
what do we got left?
Murphy.
What do we got left?
Do I do this today and just see how far I can get?
I think that was the plan. I know that you are going to edit our first vlog, but that has
Yeah,
to
I
be
can do back and forth.
that has to be done and up by Friday
Right.
morning. Like it needs to be done by Thursday night. So you have the full day tomorrow to edit the vlog as well.
Maybe I can like.
This doesn't have to be done by tomorrow, but it
Right.
would be awesome to get like the
Maybe,
first.
yeah. I'll work on it. Maybe I'll just work on those 2 things today.
Okay.
So that's our curriculum.
So that's the idea, and I think it's really fun that we, like, going forward, our plan has always been that you don't just get dropped into Wandering Aimfully and you have all this stuff and then you never hear from us. Like,
Yep.
we have wanted to get to a place, and that is why we changed our entire business model from the Buy Our Future to Wandering Aimfully, where it's a recurring monthly payment going forward, is it gives us the flexibility to know and predict our income and not have to constantly be in sales mode. So instead we can be in creation mode, building constant things like this.
Yes, and from a marketing perspective, we only benefit by creating really valuable things for our members, not only because they will hopefully get better results and then tell people about it, but also it becomes something that it becomes a talking point for the sales cycle as well, of like, hey, it gives a reason for people to buy. Like, hey, if you want to be in on this sort of accountability curriculum this month, here's,
Yeah, because really
why.
what we talked about too when we set up the sales emails for the sales cycle, and I'm going to try and get this video out today because it doesn't take much to edit, so I can just upload it and do it, is that we have an email going out tomorrow during the sales cycle. It's our third email, but it's very similar to the second email. It's a very like case study, like this person's journey, which we love. It's a really great email, but we both agree that there's a lot of case studies on the site. There was a case study email on yesterday. Maybe it'd be more impactful if we actually like broke this down and be like, here's what you can look forward to. And then also, here's what you can look forward to in the next couple months. So that was the last thing. Do you want to finish on that? We can just literally brainstorm a couple ideas of other 30-day challenges we wanted to do.
Well, we have 3.
I know. So just to clearly write them down.
Set.
Back
Oct.
to basics.
Nav. Dec. Jan. Feb. Is that too far?
She knows her months.
So this is
You know that the months spell out my name when you get to June? The first letter of each month.
You told me that and it freaks me out. Wait.
Yeah. Write it down. Write it and
No,
then
I
circle
got
the
it.
first letters.
I got it.
I know.
August. Oh my God. You're so self-absorbed.
We're in the awe of Jason of the year.
We're the awe.
See?
Back to basics. October would be like front burner.
Front burner. Which is obviously not going to be the name
Name
that
of
we share.
But we just like making up names for stuff.
New November.
New product, November. December is like,
I think December would be a good one for like decluttering your life, decluttering your digital, like a little bit of minimalism stuff in there. Like let's actually focus on some life things.
Streamline.
Yeah, because there's always the like spring cleaning, but like
Yeah.
what about spring cleaning in like
and it feels so
before Christmas?
And like, yeah, and Christmas is hectic and it feels so good to start January where
Not,
you're like,
yeah.
I already put in the groundwork here.
Could be kind of fun too if we want to think about separately of that, if maybe we don't go that route, is like start your New Year's resolution early. So like prompting people like whatever your New Year's resolution is, let's start it early.
Well, that could be a part of it. I'll
Yeah.
put like New Year's.
I don't know if this fits into a 30-day challenge, but I would really like to do it. And we actually got some really good response when we did it with Pat Griffith's I'm Going To product that he like kind of soft launched and we tried to make work, was a 30-day fitness challenge within the community. And so for everyone to just create a fitness challenge and show up. And I know that's kind of like doesn't necessarily fit in with all of what we're doing, but I just feel like it would be really interesting to, again, try and blend some of the life in with the business and just have it as like, hey, this month, Wandering Aimfully is going to get healthier. And it would be really cool if we even went one step further of like, if anyone can track their calories burned or their weight loss or whatever, and like as a group, like as a whole, like how many calories do we all burn in 1 day, 1 week, 1 month? How many pounds do we all lose? You know, like whatever. Could be kind of interesting. But I just feel
Do
like
you think
that
that's too on the nose for January?
I don't think so. I think we could really like jump on that and just say like, listen, super cliche, we're going resolutions here because you know what? We've all started them, we've all not stuck with them, and one of the main reasons why is because you have to do it alone. So you know what? We're not doing it alone. We're all
Okay.
gonna check in together, we're gonna be a part of this.
Cool.
And so I think it would be really fun. That would be an interesting one to me too of like, can we create a public Airtable that people can go in and update all their stuff? Wandering Aimfully only, it could be fun.
Okay, I think that's good. To January.
Let's do 6, because then it gives us 6 months.
Yeah, but then every 6 months things change, but
That's true.
I would like some type of creativity something where it's like you like a new creative challenge.
Well, that sounds like new product November to me.
That's a product. This is business. This is more of
So
like
give me a new, so like abstract affirmations
like-
type thing?
that or like a new hobby, like something you've wanted to learn. Like I want to learn
Origami. You just keep saying.
No, but even like development stuff. Like I
Right.
want to learn, I want to carve out time to actually see how far I can get with Ruby in a month or whatever.
All right, so keen up your knowledge February. Frisk your
Learn it.
fundamentals. Learn it. I would put like learn code in parentheses because we're gonna forget what learn it is. But that's cool. So that's 6 months of
Curriculum.
new curriculum, new things that people can get walked through. In that time, maybe we can also be streamlining our stuff. This is a lot of work for us in the next 6 months, but I think it's what we're really excited about. So.
Well, and like if I get into a system where like,
Also, we can just share this video in the email tomorrow too. If people want to be a part of that as well, it could be fun.
really, I was just thinking if I figure out how to like create it in 2 or 3 days, then that's not that bad for every month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you put in a couple of
No, but
it would only take
the creation part of it. No, but the keeping up part of it, I think there's some upkeep with.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. but that was on our customer journey. So.
And our action items too, I think here it would be good to figure out what's our plan for keeping people accountable with it,
right?
Keeping them engaged with it.
And also remember with the guinea pig thing, we wanted to check back in like,
because I almost wonder, like,
down the road,
do we create an email workflow in Drip that people can sign up for? That's like, it's just this 30-day challenge, and you're going to get an email every week, or maybe sometimes it would be every day, and we literally write out 30 emails that you would get a daily reminder. That would probably be good for like the January challenge one. But for this one, it would probably be 1 email per week to remind you of what you're supposed to do. I think that would be really helpful.
For sure.
Do you want to write that down?
Yeah, I had already, that was the idea.
I had already is what I
Well, you forget I did Color Your Soul, and this is like basically Color Your Soul. It's like a different theme every week, a different part of the overall theme, and then sending out an email. Soul Studies on Sunday. It all comes back around, folks.
Are you done?
I'm hungry.
Are you going to make pesto pasta salad?
Yes, that's a great idea.
All right, thanks for tuning into this potentially very last unedited meeting for public viewing. We'll see, we haven't figured that part out yet. But hope this was helpful just for you if you're thinking about creating curriculum for
a membership community.
Or just like,
or a course that you want to like add more life to.
Get something going. Yeah, hope you
Let's
enjoyed
say
it.
one nice thing about each other.
This could be a whole other video. No,
Just
I don't have to try. I love and appreciate how good you are at taking these ideas and like bringing them together as a cohesive, very educational, very even actionable thing that people can walk away with and go, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do. You're very good at that.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I know.
Mine's not related to business.
Oh, well, that's going to make me look like a schmuck.
No, it's not.
You remember Dinner with the Schmucks?
I never saw it.
Oh, gosh, it was
that
terrible.
the one with Steve Carell?
Yeah.
You are very, very, very good at dodging my emotional roller coaster rides that I could go on. Landmines?
Yeah.
Some might say landmines.
It's been a little
I had a
emotional.
moody day yesterday, and you were just dodging those landmines like you wouldn't believe.
The best way to do it is just to leave. You know?
Just,
I didn't leave. I stayed in the chair.
But I'm very grateful for that, and that you don't judge me for it at this point in our relationship, and you just are like, you give me space and you give me whatever I need, and you're a little bit nicer, and
I have a secret journal.
you laugh through it, and you have a secret journal.
Yeah.
Secret garden? Do you
Yeah, I
have?
have a secret garden too.
Thanks for watching, you guys.
Bye.